Viewers of my videos can legitimately ask the question, why all the effort? The work is intensive, the time required is extensive, and the results are limited. Wouldn't it make more sense to invest the time elsewhere? My thoughts on that later in this video. It was another week without tournaments for our players. Of course, no tournaments doesn't mean no work. Starting next week, there will be more tournament routine again for some of our players. Sebastian still has to wait until his first tournament, however, as his preparation period is not yet over. As the time is already getting long for him, we have a change for Sebastian this week, at least as far as the location is concerned. Together with Ivan Galic, he traveled to Tyrol for a week of training. This province in Austria is known for its mountains. So it was no surprise that the conditions in Reute are different to those in Vienna. The surface in the indoor arena and the altitude made it a challenge for Sebastian to adapt. And that was what we wanted. Tennis is not just about putting your performance on the court. Adapting to the constantly changing conditions is part of being a successful professional. And especially for Sebastian, there is still potential to improve. Slava Belinsky completed another week of training in Vienna without any major incidents. Anyone who knows Slava knows that a week without any special incidents is a positive one. In addition to the work on the court, there were also good conversations off the court. Controlling his emotions better and categorizing them correctly is a big challenge for Slava. In order to be able to help him with this, it is very important to gain Slava's trust. Otherwise, you won't be able to get through to him. We are aware that he has still a way to go when it comes to these issues and that it can be a long process. It is easy to recognize the progress with the various strokes. Progress in the development of his personality, on the other hand, seems to happen rather unnoticed. It is therefore difficult for a person to evaluate the extent to which they have improved. And especially in professional sport, where time is an essential factor, it is even more important. In addition, patience is usually not very evident in many young athletes. The practice week certainly did not go according to plan for Yuri. On Monday, Yuri completed another session after falling ill last week. Unfortunately, his health suffered a slight setback afterwards. As a result, no practice was possible on the next 2 days. We didn't want to take any risks and start too early. The big question for us was whether he should play a tournament next week. Normally, it would be a no. In this particular case, however, it would mean missing more than one tournament. The plan is for Yuri to play 2 challenger tournaments in India next week. If he doesn't play next week, it makes no sense to fly to India for a week. So we decided that he would still play next week, which is of course anything but ideal. Since he has been fever-free for a few days, he should be ready to start next week. In the past, Yuri has often shown that he can also perform in a tournament if the preparation has not been ideal. But as always, you are always wiser after the tournaments. Now to the question of why all this effort. From an economic point of view, there are certainly easier options, but would that be satisfactory for me? In my career as a tennis player, one way of looking at things has changed everything for the better. It was an agreement with myself that I would do everything I could in the few years of my active tennis career to fulfill my potential as best as I could. This deal with myself forced me to actively look at my abilities as a tennis player outside of the court. And that changed everything for me in a very positive way. And it is precisely this approach that I try to implement with our players in my day-to-day work. This is a great motivation for me and also helps me with players who may never reach the top of the world. If we manage to get a player as close as possible to his potential, which he can exploit, then we see it as a great success for us, regardless of the ranking. The requirement is, of course, that the player is willing to go through this process with us. Not every player is ready for this, and those who are not will be given a certain amount of time by me to change their views. If this doesn't happen, my motivation to work with these players will honestly no longer exist. The consequences are then logical. Thank you for your interest. You are welcome to share your opinion in the comments. See you in the next video.